Following the devastating loss of her mother to cancer, Zoe Hall, a high school student, has chosen to isolate herself from society. During a morning hunting trip with her father Todd, they encounter a wounded deer, presenting them with the difficult decision of ending its suffering or waiting for nature to take its course. Todd is taken aback when Zoe, influenced by the trauma of her mother's passing, uses a rock to deliver a fatal blow to the buck's skull. In the midst of frequent hallucinations during breakfast, Zoe finds solace in conversations with her deceased mother. Lewis, her steadfast best friend, arrives to drive her to school, but their day takes a tumultuous turn as classmates force their car off the road. This incident adds to Zoe's already challenging journey of navigating grief and societal pressures, painting a complex portrait of her struggle to cope with the aftermath of her mother's death. At school, Zoe observes a classmate, Chris, placing an unusual object in the field. Although odd, it's expected from someone like Chris, an outcast. It's the senior prank day, where students play pranks on teachers, a day dreaded by Zoe and Lewis. In chemistry class, Zoe's teacher, Mrs. Jane, notices her changed behavior due to her mother's death and attempts to talk to her, only to be swiftly dismissed. Later, Zoe discovers a proposal from Lewis in her locker, a gesture she didn't desire. They discuss it in the cafeteria, and Lewis clarifies that he's asking as a friend, not for a romantic date, to avoid missing out on school fun. Upset, Zoe excuses herself to the bathroom, coinciding with multiple harmless explosions in the city. Emergency responders work to manage the situation, realizing these are intentional acts. In the restroom, Zoe encounters a bully, Anna, hiding something in a vent. After Anna departs, Zoe inspects the vent but finds nothing. Chaos breaks out in the cafeteria when a van smashes through the glass doors, hitting Chris, the man Zoe had seen earlier. Chris shoots the injured man to death as he gets out of the van. He is accompanied by 3 people: Tristan, the gang leader, Kip, the social misfit at school, and Anna, Chris's sister, whom Zoe met in the restroom. They are in charge of setting up bombs all across the town to distract the police, and now they are here to launch a vicious attack. They swiftly eliminate a few people to establish control and silence the rest. Zoe, attempting to exit the bathroom, encounters an injured girl who rushes in seeking help. Despite her panic, Zoe can do nothing as the girl succumbs to her injuries. Realizing the severity of the situation, Zoe cautiously steps out to eavesdrop on the shooters. Tristan, the leader, informs the students that they are now hostages, requiring strict compliance with their orders. Tristan spots a former bully from the crowd, and Chris shoots the bully without the leader's consent, though Tristan had intended to do the same. Tristan instructs Chris to remain calm and only use the gun when authorized. Kip, checking the bathroom, triggers Zoe's intuition, prompting her to climb into a vent to evade capture. She crawls through the vent in an attempt to reach another exit. Meanwhile, Tristan instructs a girl to use her phone to call someone she cares about. She calls her mother, explaining the dire situation and professing her love. The mother promises to contact the police immediately. Following the call, Tristan informs everyone that the police have been alerted, discouraging any secret calls. He even permits them to make a final call to their parents before potential tragedy. The group complies, bidding tearful farewells to their loved ones in case they don't return home. While Zoe is in the kitchen, the vent gives way, causing her to fall to the floor. The noise draws Chris's attention, leading him to search for the intruder. The kitchen worker emerges to shield Zoe and takes a bullet meant for her. Zoe is stunned by the worker's lifeless form on the floor but regains her composure swiftly. Tristan contacts the school receptionist, relaying information about the deceased students. She initially doubts his claims but promptly alerts the security guard and the principal. Elsewhere, Zoe manages to escape through the school's rear door. In the kitchen, she encounters a group of classmates and informs them about the ongoing crisis inside. Following the call, Tristan instructs the hostages to initiate live streams on their preferred platforms to broadcast his actions to the world. He emphasizes the importance of cooperation, warning that a ban on the streams will result in more casualties. As he introduces himself to the global audience, the school's principal and the security guard unexpectedly burst in. Rather than expressing fear, Tristan welcomes the principal and questions if they understand his motives. The principal reveals that Tristan had been summoned to his office twice in the past week due to academic struggles and behavioral issues. The principal disparaged him as worthless and destined to achieve nothing. However, Tristan's violent actions are not solely in response to those meetings. He is an articulate and educated individual who has suffered mistreatment and bullying from society. Despite the principal's attempts to calm him down, Tristan fatally shoots the principal. The security guard is allowed to escape. Among the hostages, Lewis has the most live viewers, prompting Tristan to appoint him as the primary cameraman and position him at the forefront. Meanwhile, Zoe visits individual classrooms to inform others about the situation. Some teachers dismiss her, thinking it's a prank, while others believe her. However, notifying everyone one by one is time-consuming. Zoe activates the fire alarm in an attempt to prompt an evacuation. Unfortunately, Anna, in the electrical room, kills a guard and disables all the switches, deactivating the alarm. Those who had exited their classrooms return inside. The receptionist announces a school lockdown over the speakers and urges students to remain in place. Just then, the first group of police officers arrives. News channels begin to cover the events, but Tristan insists on broadcasting the live stream on national television. As Zoe finally reaches the receptionist's desk, an explosive device detonates, killing everyone except her. The attackers had orchestrated the explosion to prevent the students from being alerted, but the timing was off. Zoe experiences hallucinations of her mother conversing with her, highlighting the absurdity of the situation. Suddenly, Anna appears in her view, prompting Zoe to feign death as Anna walks away. Zoe then knocks on a classroom door to continue alerting people. Anna investigates the noise, and Zoe, attempting to escape, accidentally shoots her leg. The girls find refuge in the teacher's room, filled with student-arranged balloons from a prank. Zoe hides inside and surprises Anna when she's vulnerable, eventually shooting her. Meanwhile, the police discover Tristan's family background and address. They find Tristan's mother dead on the sofa at home, indicating he was involved in her death. Tristan, at school, takes control and heads to his Spanish class, forcing the teacher to undress in front of a live stream. Todd hears about the shooting and rushes to the school. Chaos erupts outside with police, parents, and reporters. Chris, influenced by inner voices, fires at the police. Zoe faces off with Kip in a slippery hallway, knocking him out with a fire extinguisher. She handcuffs him in the auditorium. Zoe's mother appears, suggesting Zoe's unwillingness to let go is preventing her from moving on. Kip reveals his involvement stems from a middle school incident where he was publicly humiliated. Zoe challenges his perspective, belittling him for targeting innocent people. Kip's realization about the senselessness of the shooting makes him reconsider his actions. Zoe retrieves Kip's gun, clarifying her intentions to Mrs. Jane, and they make their way to the library. As students are rescued, Todd learns of his daughter's efforts to help others. Meanwhile, Tristan figures out that someone is aiding the students and calls Anna's number to make his demands. Zoe admits to killing Anna and accepts Tristan's challenge. In the cafeteria, a confrontation unfolds between Zoe, Tristan, and Kip, who's now on Zoe's side. A shootout occurs, resulting in Kip's death, and Zoe and Lewis escape, pursued by Chris. After a frantic escape, Lewis discloses that he's been shot. Zoe rushes him to an office where she lays him on the sofa and shares a poignant kiss. She promises to attend the prom together and then races outside, attempting to lure Chris towards her. Their pursuit leads them into the chemistry lab, where Zoe activates the gas, causing an explosion. The resulting flames catch Todd's attention, who has covertly entered the woods behind the school, determined to rescue his daughter. In due course, Chris tracks down Zoe, poised to end her life. But mere seconds before he can act, Todd intervenes, shooting Chris dead. The police apprehend Todd, but he is relieved to have safeguarded his daughter. A phone call from Tristan meant for Chris reaches Zoe instead. Her mother stands at her side, encouraging her to persevere. Zoe sends Tristan a photograph of Chris's lifeless body, challenging his unraveling plan. Realizing his isolation, Tristan resorts to a final desperate act. He enters a van and triggers an explosive. During the call, Zoe informs him that all his efforts were in vain. He aimed to make a point to society, but the public will remember her, not him. Tristan grapples with this truth and descends into madness. He selects a random hostage and takes them to the rooftop, leaving the others behind. Zoe returns to the cafeteria, where she discovers the explosive is set to detonate in 40 seconds. She urges the hostages to flee and rushes the van outside. Fortunately, the ensuing explosion inflicts no harm. She then returns to the hallways, where a SWAT officer detains her. At that precise moment, Zoe's mother bids her farewell and departs, finally freed from Zoe's heart. In the subsequent scene, the sheriff meets Zoe and commends her bravery, shaking her hand. He informs her that Tristan was reduced to ashes in the explosion. Zoe rushes to reunite with her father, currently in police custody. Overwhelmed with emotion, he conveys his profound pride in her. Meanwhile, Louis is being rushed to the hospital in an ambulance, his condition critical. In the midst of this chaotic scene, Zoe discerns a suspicious figure emerging from the school. Instinctively, she seizes her father's rifle and stealthily trails the individual. To her astonishment, the person is revealed to be Tristan, who apparently orchestrated his own demise to elude capture. With a heavy heart, Zoe takes aim with the rifle and fires a shot into his chest. As Tristan collapses, she approaches him, acknowledging the gravity of the situation, and makes the difficult decision to leave him to his fate.